I think we can move ahead and go to the Orlando Magic, who are another super exciting team.
Yeah, I think we can head to the Magic now. I'm super excited. I have a lot to talk about with this team. Definitely going to be an exciting season for the Magic. You guys have a lot to look forward to down there in Orlando. Let me actually pull up what I wanted to talk about first.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we can start with the biggest move of the offseason. And that would, of course, be, I mean, this might have been, I mean, Kevin Durant trade, of course, but I would say this might have even been the most surprising move of the offseason to me. And it happened, I believe, while the NBA Finals were still going on, which is just insane. But yeah, the Magic traded for Desmond Bane, of course. They gave up Cole Anthony, who was later waived by the Grizzlies, Kentavious Caldwell Pope. They gave up their first round pick, which turned into Cedric Howard as the Grizzlies traded up. They gave up 3 first round picks unprotected in 26, 28, and 30. They gave up a pick swap in 29, top two protected, which is good. And then a 2026 first round pick swap from either Phoenix or Washington. So yeah, 5 first round picks to get Desmond Bane. But by all accounts, a player who fits in perfectly with this team. So yeah, what did you make of the price there, and what do you make of Bane's fit with this team?
I mean, obviously, like if you put yourself in the Magic GM shoes, like you've been competitive the past couple of seasons. You have Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner, who are these two superstar level players, and I feel like this is him putting all his chips in here. Him going, we are going to compete in the East this year. They are addressing their biggest issue, which is 3-point shooting. Desmond Bane shot 40% on 6 attempts, exactly what the Magic needed. Last couple of seasons, he's averaged 21, 5, and 5. Perfect, proven he can play as a third option and continue those numbers. He's going to fit in quite nicely with this Magic team, and he also the Magic have been a proven defensive team, and Desmond Bane doesn't take away from that. He's proven to not only hold his own as a defender, but had times where he's been an above average defender, and he even averaged 1.5 stocks a game the past couple of seasons, giving you about half a block and almost a steal every single game. So definitely something to look forward to. I think trading away that many firsts is definitely very risky. It's kind of going all in on you being successful for the next 5 to 10 years because of this trade. And obviously the Stepien rule with trading picks every 2 years is going to kind of hunt them down in the future. Trading away a pick in 2030, we've seen it. We've seen that not bode well for certain teams over time, and I feel like them knowing that and still taking that risk says a lot about how confident they are in this roster leading up to this season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely agree. When you see 5 first round picks and a pick swap, you're never going to be like, oh my God, that's a no brainer move. But at the same time, this is a weakened Eastern Conference. With the Tatum and Halliburton injuries, it's really a wide open East. And I love that the Magic are taking advantage of that, especially when you have two younger stars in Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. I think it makes a ton of sense. And yeah, obviously, like you said, shooting was this team's number one need. So getting one of the best 3-point shooters in the league is just an absolutely perfect fit. And like you said, he's a guy who's comfortable sort of taking on that complimentary star role as that like third option type of guy. He can also provide some really nice stuff as the secondary creator and playmaker, which was another need for this team. I think it's really crazy to look at just how bad of a 3-point shooting team they were. They made 11.2 threes as a team last year, but if you put Desmond Bane into that, because he made 6 point whatever threes last year, they would move up just behind the Celtics as the second best 3-point shooting team, which is just absolutely insane. And one guy can really change it all for this team. As crazy as that sounds, maybe it's not a perfect translation and maybe he doesn't hit 6 threes a game with the Magic, but at the same time, he's just such a dependable and elite shooter. I think the Magic will move at least to like the average-ish range in terms of 3-point shooting, and I definitely think they'll have enough offensive juice to compete. Another interesting thing with this Magic team, I can't remember the exact year off the top of my head, but it's been since the Dwight Howard days that they've had an offense that isn't bottom 10 in the league, which is just absurd to think about. And I think that's something that's bound to change with Desmond Bane. I mean, when you have Bane, Paolo, and Franz. Those are three all-star level players, three really, really high level scorers in this league. And that's just that alone is enough juice to get you over the hump. And then you throw in solid guys like a Wendell Carter Jr., who's a really solid center, Jalen Suggs, who has taken massive strides as an offensive player over the past couple years. And I think this team will be a really high level offense, despite not being so over the past few years. But yeah, what do you make of like how what level this team can reach in terms of just shooting and overall offense?
So I like what you said about Desmond Bane adding to their 3-point attempts every game. I think that's going to be crucial for their offense. And another guy that is going to be raising their 3-point attempts that they picked up this offseason is Tyus Jones. He shot 41% on 5 attempts last year. So that's a guy that can really raise your 3-point numbers overall, not just in volume but also efficiency. And he's also going to fill a great role on this team in terms of a ball handler and fit into lineups with Suggs and Bane very well. And he also can sit off ball, rotate, and while Franz and Paolo do their thing with their ISO ball. Paolo likes to play a lot of ISO ball, so Tyus Jones being able to play off ball will really be good for him. And I just think overall, as as a team, they've done pretty much everything they could to address their weakness. And I also think that I don't know if he's necessarily going to start, but I also think adding Mo Wagner into the center rotation a little bit more will raise their 3-point attempts, as he is a proven 3-point shooter, and that's just one of the things. Well, it's the major thing that they've struggled with offensively is their 3-point attempts.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we can talk about the center rotation in a bit, but I really like the Tyus Jones pickup as well. Doubling down on the shooting, like you said, I think that's really nice. And yeah, I mean, he's a guy that can really play that like traditional style of point guard, which I'm just such a big fan of. A guy that can orchestrate the offense, really smart decision maker. I think that will work really nicely next to Paulo and Franz. So I love that move. I thought it was a really underrated pickup, and getting him, I think, got him on like a minimum or something. I thought it was awesome. I thought he was going to be a lot better for Phoenix last year, but at the same time, just such a weird team. I remember last offseason I was gassing him up saying that this was the best move of the best like sneaky move of the offseason. Didn't totally work out, but still a guy I'm a huge fan of, and I just love having that smart decision maker in that lead guard role, and I could see him playing next to Suggs at certain points, and I think that could be a really good fit. Obviously, throughout his career, defense has been a big problem for him, but going to this Orlando Magic team that's loaded with great defenders, I don't think that will be a problem at all compared to the Suns last year that just had a abysmal defensive team. The other guy I wanted to highlight was their draft pick, which was Jace Richardson. I think that's another thing with like this Bane trade that we have to remember. They had two first round picks this year, so they were able to keep one of them, which is huge. And I just don't think any of the other picks will be that valuable, quite frankly, because I think the Magic are going to be good. But yeah, I mean, Jace, I think, is another guy who can provide that shooting. He was a 40% shooter in college, so I think that's going to just be massive for this team. And just getting another guy that can provide shooting and guard play off the bench will be huge. But yeah, what did you think about the Jace Richardson selection, and what role do you see him playing this season?
I think that Jace Richardson is a guy that, with the Magic improving their depth, he may not get into lineups right away. But I feel like with injuries and maybe in some games where they're winning by a lot more, have some more garbage time, Jace Richardson can come in and play a good role for this team. He was proven at Michigan being a good ball handler, mid-range shooter, a great 3-point shooter as well, good shot. And I feel like if he can buy into a role as a shooter with Orlando, he can find his way into a solid role in the rotation mid-season offensively. I feel like he'll definitely be like a end of the bench type of player for now, but I could very well see him working his way into the rotation for playoffs if he explodes offensively. Especially if, I mean, he was a 40% 3-point shooter in college, so he's a proven shooter. It's just whether that translates to the NBA, whether he can get those good looks or not, like he was in college, whether what his volume looks like. There are a lot of questions about his lack of defense as well, and he would need to be more of an off-ball player on this team. This team already has enough ball handlers and isolation scorers to go around, so it would really be about how he buys into his role. To be honest, I don't think his offensive skill set is in question at all for anyone.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I agree. When you're going to this Magic team, especially now that they have championship aspirations, probably not going to crack the, consistent rotation. But at the same time, he can sort of be a guy that provides spot minutes if, guy's injured, going up against a bad team, whatever the case may be. And I think this is a really solid situation for him overall, especially in the spot minutes that he's able to provide, especially like if Suggs is injured or whatever. Playing off of Paolo and Franz will benefit him a lot, and he's a really interesting guy because he is an undersized guard. He's like 6'1", but at the same time, he's not like a Tyus Jones type, like a lead ball handler. He's really that off-ball type of guy, and he's just such a good shooter. So I think that role is definitely possible for him to carve out with this team. And I mean, with the 25th pick, I don't think there was a better pick they could have made, quite frankly, both from like a contribute now standpoint and an upside standpoint because he's super young. So yeah, I thought it was just an awesome move, and that was definitely something I was eyeing ahead of the draft as like they need some more shooting. I think Jace could be available there. Why
That's
not
who I
take
had in
him?
my mock draft personally.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, same. Yeah, I mean that was just, it was kind of like a no brainer. It's like this team needs even more shooting. You can never get enough shooting. Why not add Jace to this team? And yeah, just excellent value at 25 for a guy at points in the season was looked at as a potential lottery guy, but he ended up falling a little bit because of sort of the size concern, which is understandable. But for this Magic team, I thought it was an awesome pick. I think the next two players we can talk about is just Paolo and Franz. Both really, really high level players so far. But yeah, what do you sort of view? I guess we can start with Paolo as the next steps for him to really reach that next level of stardom. And yeah, what do you think Adam Bane will do for him in that regard?
Yeah, so there was one point that I wanted to open with about Paulo that I had written down here. There's this thread with advanced analytics where they made kind of different archetypes, and one of the archetypes was an isolation scorer, and it basically adds up the isolation points per play, true shooting percentage, and points per game. Number one is Kevin Durant, and number two is Paulo Banchero. I think Paulo Banchero is an elite isolation player, and it's not talked about enough. He is so strong and physical, has such a strong handle inside that it's actually like bigger players seem to play back at him, hope he goes to the rim, and he just pulls up for the mid-range jumper every single time. He's so automatic from the mid-range. I feel like he could drift into the top 10 this year in terms of players if he played like he did last year, averaging 26, 7.5, and 5 with 1.5 stocks. I mean, he was taking 6 threes a game at a below average clip, but I feel like he was only doing that just because the team was barely taking any threes at all. I mean, they were, would you say, bottom three in threes, bottom five,
Dead last.
bottom dead last.
Yep. In made threes. Higher in attempts, but yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Like when you're not making any threes and you're the star player, you're gonna start to chuck up more shots. I feel like Paulo taking only 3 threes a game can maybe shoot it at like a 32% clip. I mean, that's not crazy, but it's definitely serviceable for a superstar player, especially when he's giving you the offensive production that he is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Paulo, I think the big step for him is shot selection, and that's definitely been criticized with him. And in some ways, rightfully so, he did take a lot of difficult shots. But at the same time, when you're playing with the league's worst floor spacing and you're the primary creator, you don't really have an option. And he was just totally suffocated by their lack of spacing. And I think Desmond Bane will impact him the most, especially just because he is that lead creator for them. And he has proven to be a really, really high level player. I would say he's top 20, top 15-ish level guy already. And yeah, he could level up even more with the increased floor spacing and just another year of development. So I think it will be massive for him. I've just been so impressed with him in the playoffs, man. I feel like that really separates him and Franz in my mind. I know there's some people on the internet that were like, well, Franz is more efficient, and Paolo takes terrible shots, which I get. Yeah, he doesn't have the best shot selection all the time, but in no way is Franz better than Paolo. That is I love Franz. We can talk about him in a second, but that's insane to me. Especially the playoffs. Last two playoffs, he's just been so impressive. Borderline averaging 30 points a game, just doing literally everything for this Magic team. And yeah, I'm super excited to see him with an improved roster, and I think he can take his game to the next level. I think he'll make his first All NBA team. That would be like my main sort of prediction for him. I don't want to like set the bar too high, but I think that's a pretty safe prediction, and I think we're gonna see him average maybe not career highs in terms of like points, rebounds, assists, stuff like that, but in terms of efficiency, I think this will be a career high for him, and I have really high hopes for his season.
Well, there's a bit of an issue with that people are also not talking about online, and that's just that Franz just got carried by Dennis Schroeder in the playoffs of the Eurobasket. While he did play decently well, he kind of shined. It kind of shined on him that he is not a good 3-point shooter. He shot 1 for 6 from 3-pointer facing elimination in the Eurobasket, and that is just not something that the Orlando Magic want in an elimination game in the playoffs. And that's all I could really think about when I was reading the stats and watching the game tape from that finals game. While Germany did win, and Franz did score a decent amount of points in that game. I'm not exactly sure how many, but I mean, he also was a below average 3-point shooter last year, shooting below 30%, and that is also just not something that the Magic are looking for. And and he also shot 28% from three throughout the Eurobasket. So that's just something with his game that he really needs to draw attention to. And hopefully he addresses that. Hopefully that's something that he can improve on this season. But if not, I think the Magic have built a roster around him and Paolo where they can still shoot the ball at least decently this season. I feel like they could be closer to league average. I don't think they're going to make an incredible jump to the point where they're an elite 3-point shooting team, but I feel like they could definitely become closer to average and become a better offense because of these moves. I just think that Franz needs to improve as a 3-point shooter to elevate his game. While I do think he is a great do-it-all wing, able to slash incredibly well, get inside, draw fouls. He got to the line incredibly in the Eurobasket. That was something that he was really efficient with, and he just needs to shore up his 3-point shot. He's proven that he can shoot the ball. He just needs to take better shots and be a better 3-point volume shooter.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the shooting's the big thing with Franz, and it's really curious. His first two seasons in the league, he was around league average, 35, 36%. And then he actually increased his volume in the last 2 years and fell below 30%. And unfortunately, I mean, like you said, the Eurobasket stuff doesn't look great. Unfortunately, I don't know how it gets better for him. Just sort of based on the fact that his shot doesn't look fundamentally good. It's one thing if he's just sort of missing shots, but it does look like there's a real hitch in his jumper, which is the thing that concerns me the most. And we saw that a lot in the playoffs. But at the same time, I think if he just maintains his level of play, just considering what he brings to the table as a really, really high level finisher, a great secondary playmaker, a guy that can defend multiple positions. He's such a all-around sound player that I don't think his lack of shooting will hurt him all that much. For him to really reach that like top 15 level player, which I think he's potentially capable of, it will have to come with improvements to the jump shot. I just don't necessarily see that this year. I think it's also interesting. He's a year older than Paolo, so he's a little bit further along in his development. Last year, he had an incredible season, career best season. I think he averaged like 23, 24, something like that. So I can see more of the same from him. I don't think this team really needs a massive improvement. It's just, can he still be that like really elite, like go to second option guy who creates a ton of shots for himself? And then I think playing next to Bane will help him a lot as a playmaker as well. But yeah, I view this as a potential All-Star season for him. I feel like All NBA would be a bit of a stretch, but hey, you never know. I definitely see this as like an All NBA jump for Paulo, All-Star jump for Franz, and I mean, who knows if this Magic team is good enough? I wouldn't be shocked if they had three All-Stars. I guess it's also interesting to note how weird the NBA All-Star format is because they're doing the World versus the U.S. now, so I feel like Franz is almost like guaranteed to get one of those World
I think
spots.
Franz will get a world spot for sure, especially if he continues the level that he's been playing at. And I also did want to mention that while their center rotation, we're going to talk about it in a second, but their center rotation hasn't really shored up. To make up for that, Franz and Paolo are both great positional rebounders, so they haven't really had to worry about having an elite rebounding center for quite some time now, especially with Paolo bringing in like 7.5 rebounds a game. I mean, that's a guy that you don't just want, you need on your team. Like, I can't even imagine what elite positional center rebounder would do for that team's offense, and maybe some more offensive rebounds and some second chances would maybe propel their offense a little more. But we'll get into the center rotation soon for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I feel like that's a perfect transition to the center rotation. One more quick thing, especially because you brought up like the rebounding. I don't know why, it just sort of like sparked in my brain, and this is something I've definitely thought about before. But this team, man, it's gonna sound crazy, but it really gives me some Celtics vibes. Obviously the 3-point shooting, even with Bane, still has to reach another level. But at the same time, you have these like two like do it all wins who are really good creators. You throw in an elite shooter now in Desmond Bane, a little bit of like a Derek White kind of guy, Jalen Suggs, he's kind of like a Drew Holiday type. It's not a perfect comparison. These guys aren't like exactly the same as like Tatum and Brown by any means, but just sort of the makeup of this roster is really similar to me. And I mean, we saw this Magic team, despite not being fully healthy, give the Celtics a real hard fought series. I know it only went 5 games, but it was a real headache for the Celtics. And yeah, I mean, we can talk about it later, but I'm really high on this Magic team this season. Yeah, I think we can talk about the center rotation because it is super interesting. You mentioned that they're getting Mo Wagner back, who went down with injury last season, but he was a really important part of their team. So yeah, I mean, how do you sort of view these three centers? Because I feel like they're all generally around the same level of player. You got Wendell Carter Jr., Mo Wagner, and then Goga Batadze. They all sort of bring something different to the table, but like I said, kind of this similar level of player. So yeah, who do you view as like the Magic's best center and who they should ideally start at that center position?
So my Magic center that I have that's going to win the rotational spot is also I hate to jump the gun again, but it's also my breakout player, but the player that I predict to win the center rotation and be head and shoulders above the other two, while Mo Wagner takes more of a backup role for offensive versatility. I really see Goga Batadze winning the center rotation this year. He just had an incredible Eurobasket campaign, getting 25 minutes a night, leading Jordan to the quarterfinals and averaging 1.8 blocks. He was an extremely efficient post scorer, 70% from 2 point. Not necessarily what the Magic need, but he'll be able to play a good two-man game with Apollo and Franz. He'll be able to get inside. Great defensive playmaker in the Eurobasket, 2.5 stocks a game. Also in the Eurobasket, he did a really good job. I can't remember the forward's name because I don't have the roster pulled up, but he shared rebounding duties with a forward on his team, Jordan, and that is a similar thing that he would do with Paulo and Franz. He would share his rebounding duties. He was averaging around 8.5 boards a game in the Eurobasket in 25 minutes. Perfectly competent, especially when you consider that he was the guy on that team. He was pretty much the number one, not necessarily scoring option, but definitely number one defensive option. I'm really high on Goga Batadze. I definitely see him playing an extremely good role on this team. He was incredible defensively last year, and I feel like him and Mo Wagner are gonna kind of complement each other, like that 1-2 punch in terms of centers. But I really see Goga getting that starter role and getting 28 to 30 minutes a game, and I see Wendell Carter Jr. getting bumped out of the rotation and traded to a team that really needs a more interior threat center. I just think those minutes aren't really needed for him anymore. And we've seen Goga and Mo Wagner progress over their first couple of seasons, and we just haven't seen that from Wendell Carter Jr. I don't see him keeping his spot in this center rotation. I just don't, especially where he was like starting just a few seasons ago and last year even. I just don't see that happening this year. If I was the Magic person, I could very well see the Magic taking a chance on him to start the year, but if I were the Magic, I would say I would look at Goga's performance in the Eurobasket and say, this is our guy. We're going to rely on him to do the dirty work, get the post hooks, get the open dunks, get the blocks, anchor our defense. I mean, this is gonna sound crazy. I have him as an all defensive big man this year. I think he's gonna really step it up in that regard. His per 36 numbers are just crazy defensively, and the value he brings defensively is just something that you don't get from Wendell Carter Jr., and that's why I think he's going to be pushed out of the rotation. That's just my thoughts on that. That was probably the one thing I was most passionate about when doing notes. I was like, I really think Goga Batadze is going to win that center position this year on the Magic and shore up their starting lineup, making them like a first seed lock.
Yeah, I mean, Goga's a really interesting pick there. He does have a little bit of like Isaiah Hartenstein in his game, I feel like. Just really, really good screen setter, good rim protector, good rebounder. Like you said, a guy that can do the dirty work. And last year, I was kind of disappointed he didn't play a ton. I still do like Wendell Carter Jr., honestly. I definitely agree, though, one of these three centers. Probably not Mo Wagner, honestly, just because he's Franz's brother. I think that might play a role, and I think he provides a lot of value as a floor spacer, honestly. But yeah, I could see one of these guys being a trade candidate. Personally, I think it might actually still be Goga. I do think he provides a lot of value, but just based off what we saw last season, it does seem like Jamal Mosley does trust Wendell Carter Jr. a lot more, and then even I think he trusts him a little bit more. I mean, who knows how the season plays out? I definitely see them starting out with Wendell, and I think Wendell. I get some of the limitations, especially he's just a really poor shooter, and they've tried to force him into the floor spacing role, which isn't his game. But at the same time, with Bane, I think he can, make that can be a bit of a difference. Defense, yeah, I mean, I think Goga's probably a bit of a better defender. I would say Wendell's a really solid rebounder still, and he is still fairly switchable, which I think is something this Magic team likes to do. And I don't think Carter's a bad defender by any means. In fact, I think he's actually pretty solid on that end of the floor. So I think they're just going to sort of lean towards him still. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people would agree with you. And I know there's a lot of Goga fans out there on the internet. So, I mean, I think it's a fair discussion. I mean, these guys are all sort of like really similar players. So it's a tough call. I like Mo Wagner in that sort of like backup big role a lot, though. And I think they could close. I mean, starting, I feel like they're gonna start. At least, I mean, maybe if he like comes out and he plays poorly, they'll change the starting lineup. But I feel comfortable saying that Carter is gonna be the starting center to start the season. But I feel like on any given night, who's closing with this starting group can change at that center position. Maybe sometimes they'll, run a little bit of a different lineup with like Paolo at the 5 or something, or Jonathan Isaac if he can even provide high level minutes, because he can play that backup 5 nicely as well. But I think it could vary between these three guys. I still lean towards Carter just because I think he's the most proven guy and Mosley's trusted him the most. I like his skill set, honestly. Good screener, too. Good inside scorer, really good rebounder, playmaker. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, he did sort of have a down year statistically, but still remained that like mainstay starting center for them. So yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting part of this team and definitely something to look at. I'll go ahead and get to my breakout player. Since you named Goga as yours, I'm gonna go with a bit of a different one. I'm gonna go with Tristan Da Silva here, a guy who I really liked in that 2024 draft. And yeah, I mean, just a guy that super smart player, really, really has a good understanding of where to be on the court. And his just like basketball IQ really stands out. And he was an older rookie last year. I feel like he's going to play a significant role with this team. He didn't shoot great as a rookie. He only shot 33% from three. But at the same time, throughout his college career, he was a really efficient shooter. And I think that trend will continue at the NBA level. I think he'll have a bounce back season as a shooter. And if he can just shoot a little bit better, I think he could have a real role with this team. And when you look at sort of that, backup forward spot, I mean, obviously they have Paolo and Franz, But at the same time, I feel like they're going to need someone off the bench to sort of step up and fill that void a little bit. Obviously, they got John Isaac still, but he's a guy that can only really play limited minutes at this stage of his career. So I do feel like there's an opening there in that rotation, and I think De Silva is going to take it. Just such a high IQ basketball player, solid defender, solid playmaker. Is not going to do anything flashy, but a guy who can make that extra pass, be that connected playmaker, solid rebounder. Again, his game's not going to stand out that much, but he's just such a fundamentally solid player. I think he'll carve out a nice role with this team. I wanted to go with my guy Anthony Black, but I just don't think there's enough minutes available, and I view him as a trade candidate with this team, honestly. But yeah, I mean, do you have any De Silva thoughts?
De Silva was another guy that I was debating between for my breakout player, honestly. I really think he's going to fit in nicely with this lineup. I don't see Jonathan Isaac being very available. That's been a key issue of his for quite some time now. And I feel like De Silva is going to fit into those minutes very nicely and maybe even take over that role for Isaac. And yeah, I really enjoy that pick. Like I said, I feel like we've kind of knocked out the 1 and 2 candidates for breakout player. I did want to add something about Goga that I found. He shot the best 3-point percentage and volume of his career in the Eurobasket. 30%, 36% on almost 4 attempts.
Yeah, I mean that's really really solid, and I mean if he can add a 3 point shot to what he does as an all around player, especially because that's a role that they've wanted Carter to fill for years, I definitely think that could change things. And if he can translate that to the NBA level, and he's still, I mean, I don't think he's not like a super young guy by any means. I don't know his age off the top of my head, but he's a bit younger than Carter, if I'm not mistaken. So if he can add that, he could definitely potentially take over that starting center role, and that would be really interesting storyline. I mean, and we've seen it with guys. I know I mentioned Hartenstein before, but he does remind me a lot of Hartenstein, and we've seen like guys like that sort of be a little bit late bloomers. And I think it's potentially we could see the same thing with Goga here. I know he just like I said before, he has a lot of fans online. And yeah, I don't blame you at all for being a Goga guy. Super interesting player, and yeah, I'm intrigued to see what role he has this season. I think we want to or we can translate or transition here to Jalen Suggs, who is one of the more interesting players with this team. If I had to say like an X factor guy, it would probably be Suggs, just because availability. But yeah, he had a season-ending injury last year, and I think we'd look at this team a little bit differently. I think they would have finished higher in the standings. Obviously, Paolo and Franz struggled with their own injuries, but at the same time, I think if they just had Suggs healthy for a full season, they would have been a different team last year. They wouldn't have been a playing team in my mind. But yeah, what do you make of Suggs' impact overall, and just how big of a deal is it to have him back in the fold?
I mean, you saw Suggs last year take his career high in points per game, and then you saw him the year before that make all defensive second team and be 10th in defensive player of the year voting. While his turnover numbers went up significantly last year, I expect that to go down with the added ball handling throughout the roster and Paulo hopefully getting a full season under his belt. I expect those turnover numbers to go down significantly. I feel like availability for their star players was really the only reason that those turnover numbers were up, unfortunately. He also shot 40% from three in 2024, which I feel like not enough people are talking about. That was also on 5 attempts. And then last season, he went up to 7 attempts, and his 3-point percentage dropped slightly. I just feel like now with the added 3-point shooting, he could maybe keep those attempts, but generate better shots for himself, or maybe with Paulo playing more, he will get better shots generated for him. I mean, we've seen isolation scorers throughout the league, and including Paulo, be able to open up offenses through their isolation scoring because they get double teamed so much because they require so much help and attention. And we've seen forwards improve in their playmaking throughout their career. I mean, you kind of compared Paulo and Tatum earlier. I see Paulo this year with the improved shooting on his team taking a step up playmaking wise, maybe averaging 6+ assists per game, like the same way Tatum started doing around this stage of his career, maybe a little later. So I see a major jump in their offense this year, and I think a lot of that revolves around Suggs shooting the ball like he did in 2024, maybe slightly better decision making without less pressure on him to reduce those turnover numbers. I'm projecting a big year from Suggs. Um, I think that with a top defense, I think with the improvements this year, I think if they played Goga more minutes, I think they have the potential to be the number one defense, which is just absolutely crazy. And I think Jalen Suggs is the best defender on this team. I see him as a potential best guard defender this season. I think that's not too high of an expectation to put with him because he has been proven to be with the elite of the elite in terms of guard defenders.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I mean, this Magic team over the past few seasons has really been an elite defensive team, and I could definitely see them. I don't think they're gonna top the Thunder because the Thunder are just so good on defense, but
Yeah,
they
yeah,
could
that's
do.
true. I didn't think about the Thunder.
Who knows though? I mean, anything can happen. Stranger things have happened, so I can't completely rule it out. But I could see them like top two or three defense, absolutely. And Jalen Suggs is just such a big part of that. I mean, here's a guy who's probably the heart and soul of this team. To be honest with you, I mean, obviously Paolo and Franz are their best players, and then even Bane's probably their third best guy. But at the same time, I view Jalen Suggs as really that like glue guy for this team. He brings a little bit of everything to the table. But yeah, especially the defense. He's just so elite on that end of the floor. And yeah, I mean, I might agree. He could very well be the best perimeter defender in the league. He can just really take stars out of games. I mean, and he's so disruptive off the ball, which is just crucial. Um, so yeah, I mean, he's just so elite on that end of the floor, and that just changes everything for this Magic team. At the same time, the shooting is going to be the big swing factor here.
Yeah, for
Like you
sure.
said, 40% in 2023-24, but for the rest of his career, he's been a really below average shooter. And like you said, I think they're going to empower Paolo as a playmaker a little bit more. And with that, is Suggs going to, be able to hit that open corner three consistently? I think that's going to be a big thing. I do think he can, especially seeing what we saw from him just 2 seasons ago and the fact that he's going to get a lot of open looks in this offense. But at the same time, it's a big question. I think it's one of the bigger questions I have with this team,
Hmm.
especially just how bad they've been as a 3 point shooting team overall. But yeah, I mean, just in general, I think he's the perfect point guard to pair next to Paul and Franz, especially as they're just elite creators. You sort of need a point guard. It sounds like an oxymoron a little bit, but an off-ball point guard in some ways, like like we saw with the Celtics with Derek White and Drew Holiday. Those two proved to be the perfect guards next to the Jays, and I think we could see that a little bit similarly with Paulo and Franz here. And then I mean, even you throw Desmond Bane into the mix, and there's just so many guys that need to be created. You need a point guard that's more so comfortable playing that connective playmaking role, comfortable, spotting up and not always having the ball in his hands. And I think Suggs is super capable of that. But yeah, just overall, just I love what he brings to the table. Just super tough, super good defender, really solid playmaker. We'll see about the shooting, but I think he just brings so much to the table for this team, and I'm super excited to see him fully healthy and back in the mix this year.
And he's not just a good defender; he's been improving every single year. I mean, his not even just like his advanced defensive numbers. Like if you just look at the raw numbers, his stock numbers have been going up every single year, and it got to a point last year he was giving you 2.5 stocks a game. And I think without injury, he very well could have made a defensive team, especially second defensive team. He's like right up there with the best of the best perimeter defenders in the
Yeah.
league, and his steal number, especially his block numbers. I mean, he was averaging a block a game last year as a guard. I mean, that's just absolutely insane. He's like, I know you said Drew Holiday. I see him more as like a Derek White type of mold. Like a perimeter lock, kind of not as good of a shooter as Derek White, but defensively definitely kind of shot blocking guard everywhere, passing lanes, that type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. No, that definitely makes a lot of sense. He's kind of like a sort of a mix, in my opinion. Um, is that like fucking football build like Drew Holiday, just like built like an absolute middle linebacker. I know he played quarterback, but he's built like a tank. Is my point.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, super exciting player, and I think it's cool to think about back in the draft 2021. He was a top five pick, but I never ever imagined him to be this good of a defender. It definitely wasn't like a weak point of his coming into college, but this just wasn't the role that I envisioned him in, and it's cool to see how he's developed. And yeah, just a super awesome story. And yeah, I mean, I feel like he's a player that like everyone's gotta like. I mean, how can you not like this guy? He's so fun to watch, and I mean, if you love defense and you love toughness, Jalen Suggs is just such an easy guy to root for. But yeah, I think we can get into over under talk here. 51.5 wins is the line. So yeah, do you feel the over or the under there? And yeah, where do you sort of see this team stacking up in the East? I want to pull up the standings first to get the win total. So yeah,
Yeah, me
last
as
year they
well.
won 41 games with just all the injury problems they had. But the year before, I'd like to point out they won 47 games. So yeah, do you feel the over or the under there with 51.5?
I definitely feel the over here. I feel like the Magic are a sleeper to be number one seed in the East, especially with the Celtics becoming injury ridden and kind of focusing more on their salary, and the Bucks getting rid of Lillard, waiving him. Wow. And then I also just think that the Magic are in an absolute cupcake division. I feel like divisional play isn't really talked about as much with the NBA because it doesn't apply to the playoffs, but they do get more matchups within their own division, and the Magic are playing the Hornets, the Wizards, the Hawks, and the Heat. And the Heat have gotten significantly worse while they still have solid pieces. I just don't see them being a guaranteed playoff team. And then the Wizards and the Hornets are pretty much at the bottom of the totem pole. The only team in their division I would see them worrying about is the Hawks, and they're the Hawks. Like, they haven't won a championship since the Pettit days. So I'm not really worried about them being competitive. And the Eastern Conference in general, just like you kind of gotta, in order for teams to be better than the Magic, you kind of gotta rely on a lot of things. Like for the Bucks to be better than the Magic, Giannis has to surpass the depth that the Magic have accrued this offseason, and then teams like the Cavs and the Celtics and the Knicks, while the Cavs were incredible last season, I feel like the Magic have made improvements. The Magic had injuries last season where you could say, well, they still won 41 games where they were still like a bottom five offense, which is just absolutely crazy that they were able to be a 4 seed with that type of offense, and they are elite defensively. I feel like they're able to match up nicely with a lot of different Eastern Conference teams, including the Cavs. I think they match up very nicely with the Cavs. They have a lot of switchable perimeter defenders for their perimeter scorers. I view them as a sleeper East 1 to 3 seed lock for the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like, they're in that upper echelon of teams in the East, most definitely. I do see them exceeding this win total. Again, I feel like I say this every time. These win totals are fairly accurate, so I don't know how much over they're going to go, but yeah, I see them as like a, 53, 54 win team. See that as like a top 3 seed in the East for sure. I'd probably have them third. I think the Cavs, well, I don't totally trust them in the playoffs yet, given just how poorly this core has performed in the playoffs over the last few years. Yeah, obviously injuries are a factor, but it hasn't looked great. Let's just be honest. At the same time, this Cavs team has proven to be like a regular season juggernaut, especially under Kenny Atkinson last year. They won 60 plus games. I feel like they could be around that 60 win mark again, especially with the Celtics taking a massive step back. Knicks are another team. I think they'll take a step up. They improved their depth. They were already the third best team in the East last year. I think they're gonna reach another level, be mid to high 50s as well. And then yeah, I feel like the Magic are just right below those teams. I'm still super high on them, but yeah, I see them as like a 3 seed, winning around like 54, 55 games, something like that. And then in the playoffs, I think this is a dangerous team. I mean, they're gonna be tough to go against, man. I'm not saying they can make a championship run. I'm not predicting that at least. I think they could at their ceiling maybe come out of the East and surprise some people. At the same time, I do think it's a tough jump to make going from the first round to the NBA Finals. So I can't necessarily predict it, but I do think this team has a good amount of upside in the playoffs just based on how wide open the East is, that they have the star power and now they have the tools to complement their stars. But yeah, what do you make of sort of this team's ceiling in the East?
I think their ceiling's very high in the East just because they raised their floor so much by improving their shooting, and their floor was already so high because of their defense. It's been proven in this league that, oh God, I hate to quote Nico Harrison again, but defense does win championships. It does. And that's not even a joke. That's not me trying to be funny. Defense wins championships. And that's because when you have a good defense, you can only be so bad. And that's not necessarily true about having a bad defense. You can't necessarily be good with a bad defense. I mean, we even see we even saw the Warriors, who had limitations positionally defensively throughout their dynasty. They were able to produce a defensive system that was elite. Of course, because of Draymond Green, but that's a whole other conversation. Yeah, the man. But the Magic, just they're an incredible defensive team, and I see them potentially being a number one defensive team this year just because of their top five, at least top five defensive team, because of their positional versatility, switchability, off-ball defensive ability, stock numbers throughout their lineups. Just the amount of defensive lineups they're able to produce with this team is just like insane, especially with Suggs and Anthony Black at the guard spots. Well, while Anthony Black has had his limitations offensively, solid perimeter defender. Very, very solid. Underrated part of his game, in my opinion, since he's been drafted. He's kind of been expected to take this offensive leap, but he's really been a solid perimeter defender, in my opinion. I just think that the ceiling for this team is fairly high. While I will say that they are not like head and shoulders above like the Knicks or the Cavs, let's say. It's not like the Nuggets and the Thunder in the East, where I view them as juggernauts, especially with this Eastern Conference being weaker. But I feel like the Magic, with their elite defense, will definitely put them over the edge in the end, especially over the Knicks, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point about defense always sort of translating, especially to the playoffs. As much as people want to clown Nico Harrison for saying defense wins championships, there's definitely a lot of truth. And I think you look at the Thunder this past season, it's proof. They had the best defense in the league. They were just so disruptive. They forced turnovers. And it's so hard to game plan against a defense that's that elite. So I think that's going to be a real strength for this team, especially in the playoffs. Personally, I'm gonna go with the Nuggets and Knicks as my finals prediction as of today. There's like a month before the season. I don't think that's gonna change. That's been my prediction most of the offseason. But I could potentially see the Magic shaking things up in this Eastern Conference. And yeah, I mean, definitely makes a lot of sense. So, do you have an official finals prediction that you want to cement for the pod?
Ooh, a finals prediction to cement for the pod. Do you want me to play it safe, or do you want like a hot take?
I mean, I want like what you think is like if you had to make a prediction. Like if you think the Magic are gonna come out of the East, say it. But like if you're just saying it to say it, then nah. But like you know what I mean? Like if you like the
Yeah.
Cavs, you could say the Cavs. The Cavs should be the best roster in the East.
Well. If I said the Magic were coming out of the East, I wouldn't be saying it just to say it. I think the Magic are going to come out of the East. I think the Nuggets are going to come out of the West. I think it's both of the teams that we talked about today. I think that's going to be our finals matchup. I see with a weaker Eastern Conference, the Magic are built for the playoffs. Their defense is going to put them over the edge, and adding 3-point shooting into their arsenal with Bane I feel like is really gonna boost their offense. And I do like the Knicks, and I know they just made their coaching change. They just fired Tibbs, but I really I really don't think this team is built for the playoffs still, like the Magic are. I don't think they're deep like the Magic are. And I think we saw the Magic lose their star player last year and still make the playoffs. And I feel like the Knicks would be much more heavily affected by an injury to one of their star players. Like let's say Brunson or Cat. Like if Cat got hurt, that would absolutely destroy their team. Absolutely destroy their team, especially when it comes to rebounding numbers. Like their backup big is who right now? Gershon.
Well, Mitchell Robinson, but there's a ton of health concerns there. And then yeah, Gershon.
So honestly, I would say Gershon, because Mitchell Robinson plays like what, like 40 games a year. Like he's like a Robert Williams. Like, well, no, I'm not even saying it to be funny. The whole reason they picked up Gershon was because Mitchell Robinson's availability has been so bad, and it's caused them not to be able to get rid of him. I mean, they've tried trading him multiple times, and they're just not able to.
Yeah, there's definitely some concerns about the Knicks, and yeah, I mean, I definitely like the pick. It's definitely something that I've floated around. Like, what if the Magic are able to come out of the East? And definitely something I can't totally rule out. I just sort of lean the Knicks because of the playoff experience. I think that's something I'm always going to value. It's just, I'm not saying it's impossible. I think it's something the Magic are potentially capable of, but they still have not made it out of the first round. And I think that's a massive step, even in the East, to go from first round to the finals. And when you look at this Knicks team, I think it's the most proven core in the playoffs, and that's sort of why I lean towards them. Despite, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I do have certain concerns about their defense when you have Brunson and Cat in the team. I think it's natural, but at the same time, we saw them knock out the defending champs with those two on defense, and their defense around them is really, really solid. I like how they upgraded their depth. They got Malcolm Brogdon, Gershon, Jordan Clarkson. And then, if Mitchell Robinson can stay healthy, obviously big if, who knows? I think this team really does have a lot of depth, and they have the star power along with the guys to complement their stars to make a big run. I'd still pick the Nuggets. I think whoever comes out of the West is going to win it all. But yeah, that's just sort of why I lean the Knicks. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting debate, and you can pick a lot of teams. I know there's probably some people that would pick the Cavs still, which I think is totally reasonable. If you look at this roster, they really they should come out of the East, especially winning 60+ games. But yeah, unless you have any closing thoughts on the Magic or the East, I think we can just sort of wrap it up here.
So the pick that I was like, oh, like this team could make a run if they like. I think a lot of things have to happen, but I could very well see the Hawks doing it. And I know that may sound crazy, but Trae Young has proven himself in the playoffs as a superstar player. And I think they've had one of the better off seasons in the league getting Porzingis. And I think if Porzingis was available for the playoffs and they had their full team and Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels were playing at the level they did last year, and first of all, their defense would be incredible. Second of all, I think they could match up with a lot of these Eastern Conference teams. I mean, the East is just so weak, and Trae Young has proven time and time again that he can hang with these superstars despite Patrick Beverley's dissing. He has proven he can hang with these superstars, and he's an all-star level player. He is a threat from 35 plus feet out. Like it's known. He is one of the best lob passers in the league. He has proven to make all bigs around him better, and guys like John Collins, Clint Capella, Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu. He sets them up right at the rim. He's one of the best alley-oop passers in the game, and while his efficiency does look bad, he's also one of the most difficult shot takers. So that was kind of just my case for the Hawks. I feel like a lot would have to happen, but I think Trae has a really good supporting cast around him. They just had a great offseason, and I think they're going to be a playoff team this year.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
that's me making it up to the Hawks fan base for dissing.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you look at the last few years in the NBA, the Pacers made their finals run, the Mavericks made their finals run, and dating back to 2023, the Heat made their finals run, and none of those teams were expected to do so. So there's always a possibility for just an out of nowhere, wait, this team made the finals. How'd that happen? And I think the Hawks check a lot of those boxes, especially in the East. And yeah, I talked about them a couple weeks ago, but I have them as a top four seed in the East, sort of right below this tier of Orlando, New York, Cleveland. Yeah, very high in the Hawks. Yeah, I think you really nailed it there. I mean, this is the best roster of Trey's career, and I think they could do something special. Porzingis, though, is of course the massive X factor, especially in a deep playoff run.
I mean, we saw as Celtics fans last year Porzingis pulling up and demanding coverage from the same range that Trae pulls from. So having those two out on the floor together would be a little ridiculous, especially them playing a two-man game, running the pick and pop, and then maybe like a Jalen Johnson cutting in for a lob. Like defenses would really have to do a lot to stop that. It wouldn't be like last year with the Hawks where they had the first overall pick and they were kind of like one of those middle of the pack teams. I feel like this year they're gonna surefire themselves as a playoff team.
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, I'm super excited to see this Hawks team, and definitely one of the teams I'm most looking forward to watching this season. I mean, Magic as well. I think both those teams are just going to be a ton of fun. But yeah, I mean, Unless you got any other thoughts on the Magic or the East, I think we can call it a pod. I had a lot of fun chopping it up with you and talking about two of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, that was good, man. I think I'm all set. I think we've been through everything. That's pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, bro. It was a great time. Definitely have to have you on again during the season. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. And I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Cassels Cast. Shout out to Ryan for coming on the show. It was a lot of fun. Catch you guys in the next episode.